Hi everybody, in today's video, I'm going to talk about self-care for your mind. So this is a little bit different than the self-care that you're probably already aware of. Most people talk about self-care these days as far as, like doing things like going to the spa or, going to get a massage or sitting and meditating for a while, which is great. Meditating is amazing, and I'll talk about that in this video too. But I specifically wanted to talk about as far as mental care, pretty much like self-care for your mental health. So this is kind of a separate area from physical self-care. And I'll go more into this later in the video where I'm going to show you my my workbook that separates the three, the mind, body, and the soul. So there's different self-care activities for all three. So I'm not going to go over the physical and the spiritual ones in this video. This is just about the mind. This is just about mental health. And I'm making this video because I think this is something that needs attention these days, especially with everything that's going on in the world. And a lot more people are unfortunately having serious mental health issues to the point that there's been a lot more suicides, there's been a lot more people going to seek therapy, and I'm not a therapist, but I want to help in any way that I can, and I believe that my products are beneficial for people that can't afford to go to therapy or they just want to do the self-care, which is what this video is about. So there's kind of a difference here. I want to specify that if you have serious mental issues where, you're thinking about suicide or you can't really get through the day without medication, that's kind of a more serious thing. And the stuff that I'm talking about that's why this video is called self-care. It's for the things that you can do for yourself on a day-to-day basis. And you can also benefit from this stuff even if you do fall under that first category, as long as you're aware of the fact that this does not replace seeing a mental health professional. This is strictly for the benefit of self-care. So I'm going to talk about, first I'm going to go through my mental health workbook. This is one of my best sellers in my Etsy shop, and I think that this needs to have more attention put on the fact that people don't really know where to go for help. They might not even want to call one of those hotlines. They might be embarrassed. They might not want to talk to their friends about it. So in this case, this is the perfect thing that you can do in the privacy of your own home. You don't even have to tell anybody that you're buying this. You don't have to tell anybody what you're doing. This is something that can be something that if you're ashamed of, you can work on this on your own. It's not something, you don't have to go to a clinic and, have people run into you, and then you might have to say, well, I'm here because I've got depression and anxiety, and, you don't have to do anything like that. That's why I believe that this can help people like that. So I'm going to go through what's all in this workbook, and then you can determine if this is for you or not. And I also have two other options that I'm going to go through after this. So I've got three different options depending on your budget, depending on your needs. So the mental health workbook is going to come with 20 pages, 21, whatever pages it is. And the first one is a page of mental health tips. So it kind of gives you some facts about mental health. And then there's a page on regrets, because regrets is one of those things that you don't really think about, but regrets can really mess with your mental health. If you regret doing things and you never fully process that, it's very important that you process it. And that's why journaling is so great. That's why, oh my gosh, I just love journaling. I talk about it all the time. That's what I make. I think journaling is one of the best things that you can do for your health, especially your mental health. And so I do give lots of journal pages in my workbooks for this reason. And so another one of the questions here is the things that you regret not doing, and that's just as important because that can cause depression. If you have things in your life that you've always wanted to do that you haven't done. And if you're to the point that you regret not doing them, you're almost admitting to yourself that it's never going to happen. But it can happen, and so this will help you determine the things that you want to you can still do something about. And then trauma. This is another one that's huge as far as mental health. And one of my other products is another version of this where it's just this trauma pages. So if you're interested in this book but you can't afford the $9 for it, you can get the trauma worksheets alone, and they're a lot cheaper. So that's this page, and then this page, and then this page. And so basically they're just helping you work on a plan to heal your trauma. And again, I'll say that this is not I'll go back to this other page. This is just an assessment. This is just for you to kind of identify the areas where you think you have the most trauma in your life and how far, you are in healing from those if they still control your life, and then going through goals to fix that, and a tracker as well to keep track of your progress. So those three trauma sheets are also in another workbook, well, worksheet set that I sell, and I'll go through that after this. So this workbook here also includes a thought tracker, which helps you to determine if you're stuck in the past, if you're worrying about the future, and it gives a present moment journal so that you can do this exercise. And here is the instructions for the exercise. This is one of my favorite exercises to do. And it also gives altered state exercises, and these are great ways to get your brain into the alpha state, and that is where you do all of your healing, because you don't have the resistance. You don't have your conscious mind, more like your monkey mind, I've heard it called, where you're just your brain is going so fast and it's always coming up with negatives. And so when you get into an altered state, you erase that, and then you're left with just your soul, your higher self coming through, and you can access your wisdom, your own wisdom. So there's a couple pages here on different exercises that you can do. And then here's a creativity exercise, and this is where I like to include this in this book because it's personal growth, and that is very important when it comes to mental health. Of course, mental health is not just depression and anxiety, it's also expanding your mind and sparking your creativity in whatever way that you want. And that's where this page here will help. And then a creative hobby planner. Because sometimes, you're not really you're not depressed or anxious. You don't feel like you're living your up to the potential that you could be. You don't feel like you're expressing yourself correctly and enjoying all the things that you want, and this kind of helps with that too. And personal development, that's kind of the same thing as personal growth. It's basically expanding your mind and learning and growing and evolving, which is very important to mental health. And then, of course, stress reduction is a very important part of mental health. So this kind of gives you a little way to reduce that and to create goals for yourself. So there's a couple different pages here on creating goals to reduce your stress. And then clearing clutter, that's also very important because physical clutter leads to clutter in the mind. So there's kind of some little checklists there and how to get through that. And then this workbook also includes a weekly to-do list because, as I like to say, I think writing your to-do list down is very helpful when it comes to your mind, because it's clearing your mind of all the things that you don't want in there, all the things that are taking up space that are helping to keep you from, you're getting your intuition to come through and in reaching your higher soul. And it is that impressive as far as this goes. It sounds very simple and like it wouldn't work, but writing things down is one of the best things that you can do for your mind in any fashion. And that's why I'm such an advocate of planners and to-do lists and journals. So here's a journal page too, that you can, just a generic page that you can use for whatever purposes you want. And so now I'm going to talk about my trauma worksheets, and this is something that I just kind of went over, but these are a different style. They're like a different design, and it's just this sheet, and this sheet and this sheet. So these are a little more inexpensive if you're on a super tight budget. You might be able to afford those, or if you don't need the rest of that other workbook and you just want the trauma sheets, because there's a lot of people that are just searching for ways to heal their trauma, and a tracker and a goal sheet to make them goals happen. So those options are there for you as well. And so now I'm going to talk about the last one here, and this is the Body, Mind, and Soul Self-Care Planner and Journal. This is one that I'm super proud of, and it's kind of an all-encompassing self-care journal planner because it's the body, mind, and the soul. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to quickly go through the mind section because that's what this video is about, and I'm going to just skip to the page where I have the mind here. All right, so these are general self-care practices. So this will go over having positive relationships in your life, spending time in nature, journaling, which of course I talk about all the time, balance, meditation, and yoga. So those are some ideas and some of the best ways that you can practice self-care for the mind. And here's some other ones as well. Mindfulness, this is a separate thing from meditation. Um, Using the five senses, and that usually goes along with meditation or mindfulness. Silence and solitude, that's a big one. And then creativity, of course, which is something that I just talked about in the other workbook. And then this self-care workbook also goes into the times of the year, like the different seasons, and then gives some ideas. And it's got a self-care activities list and a daily routine chart, weekly self-care activities, weekly tracker, journal prompts. And so that one's about 20 pages long. So there's options for you, depending on what your needs are, depending on what your budget is. And honestly, if you can't afford any of these things, the things that are free are, like I said, going out in nature, meditating, doing yoga, and yoga is good for the body as well, but it's also really good for the mind. And silence and solitude is a big one, and I understand that a lot of people, they've got kids, they live with other people, they can't create solitude, but you can create silence, and sometimes that's something that you might only have 5 minutes a day, and so that's where you start, and any little bit helps, of course. So I really hope that this video helped you, and especially to bring awareness to the fact that mental health is something that we need to work on every day. It's not something that you should let go of and kind of then you're forced to deal with it when it becomes a problem. And this is just like physical health too. It works the same way. So if you take care of these things on a daily basis, and that's why the daily routine part is important, because if you can work these things into your daily schedule, then they won't become a big problem. And that's the whole entire point of self-care, that it is something that becomes a habit. It's something that becomes part of your daily routine. And that's why I love making these planners and journals, because they kind of help people to do that. And so you're really practicing self-care on your body, mind, and soul every day. And then that's preventing any of these problems from getting worse. So that concludes this video, and I just wanted to thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this, give this video a like and share it. Please share this with anyone that you know that is struggling with their mental health, because many people want to they don't feel comfortable going to see someone, and so in something like this might be beneficial for them. So give this video a share if you know anybody that would benefit from this. And thanks for watching again, and I'll see you in the next video.